the can be brought to the city. It's an all-volunteer board, and we don't take stands on issues unless we have surveyed the neighbors and gotten a majority of people on a topic so that it's true representation. But we do always try to present both sides of the issues, and homeowners and renters alike are welcome at our meetings. This meeting will be recorded. Please restrict conversations to the chat. At the end of presentations, there'll be time for questions. I have a couple of announcements I want to make. We had our meeting to elect the board in December, and the board of directors was elected, and we had a meeting to elect officers, and I am continuing as president. Miles Tangelin will continue as treasurer, and Tom Connis will continue as secretary. My second announcement is that on February 28th, 1 week from tonight, there is a meeting at Carla Madison Rec Center from 5 to 7, where the BRT will be presenting their parking plan for Colfax Avenue. This is a very important meeting for neighbors to attend so they can understand how this is going to impact us. Again, this meeting is being recorded. Mr. Wilson, it seems you have a question. You might want to unmute.
I'm sorry, thank you. You said to limit conversations to the chat. My chat is not working. And you also mentioned the elections for board of directors. Can you explain to everybody how that process works? Thank you.
No, tonight I will not, Mr. Wilson. We discussed that at our December meeting.
No, you
and
didn't.
It's also, it is widely available on our website.
You mean the bylaws, which you don't follow?
Mr. Wilson, we are going to have to ask you to refrain from that kind of behavior tonight, as you seem to be quite familiar with our bylaws. We have a no bully, no harassment clause. So this is not a venue for that. All right, let's get on with our meeting tonight. We have 3 speakers. Beth McCann, the district attorney, is here. And I'm going to let Beth start it off. So thank you for coming, Beth.
Thank you for having me. You know, I live in Congress Park, so it's really important and fun for me to be able to attend your neighborhood meeting. I just am going to talk about a few things, and then I'm happy to answer questions. So I know that a lot of people are concerned about what we saw as a rise in crime during the pandemic and then shortly thereafter. I do want to tell you that 2023 saw a decrease in crime pretty much across the board, and particularly in motor vehicle theft. We had almost a 20% decline in motor vehicle theft in 2023 from 2022. We've also seen a decline in most violent crime and also in property crime. I know it probably doesn't feel that way because there still is too much crime. But I think it's important for you to know that the Denver police and my office have been working really diligently on motor vehicle theft, particularly, and also fentanyl, because fentanyl is another huge issue going on in our community. So we have been able to really focus a little bit more on those crimes. Of course, we're also prosecuting homicides and sex assaults and child abuse and all of that continues to go on as well. But I'm pretty pleased to say that overall crime has been going down, and we hope to continue that. Congress Park is not one of the high crime areas. Again, I know sometimes perhaps it doesn't feel that way, but it is not really a high crime area in general. So that's reassuring. And then a couple things that I just did want to mention. And again, I'm happy to answer questions, but I just testified this afternoon on a bill to strengthen our human trafficking penalties and extend the time period within which people can report human trafficking. As I know some of you know, that is a big priority for me. I was involved when I was a deputy DA in a human trafficking case, and it really stuck with me. So we were able to get that bill passed out of the committee this afternoon, and we'll be going to the Senate floor with that. I was able to start a human trafficking unit in my office, which has been really pretty successful in terms of investigating and addressing human trafficking. Another thing that I have been interested in is elder abuse. I'm a baby boomer, and there are a lot of us, and we're getting to that stage. So we do see a fair amount of abuse of people who are getting older in terms of mostly fraud. So it's something to be aware of and be cautious about. There are predators out there who are really good at fraud and getting people to part ways with their money. It's their job. They train for it. They're good at it. And so we are trying to educate the community about being careful about scams and not revealing personal information, particularly any kind of bank accounts or credit cards. So I think Mary sent you, Vicki, a sign-up sheet. If people want to sign up to get our emails, we do a fraud email about once a month, and we're happy to send that out to people if you would like to keep up with what we're doing. Also, digital evidence has become such a big deal. We solve a lot of crimes through people's Facebook accounts, through their phones, through their instant messaging. And, it's interesting that people often do like to sort of brag about their crimes online. And so that's been an area that we've expanded. I've got now a digital evidence unit that works on search warrants for evidence from various digital media companies. And then we can use that evidence in helping us solve crimes, which has been very helpful. And I think that's going to continue. We don't yet know how the whole artificial intelligence business is going to impact crime or our office. So we're going to be watching that. There are starting to be seminars about it, and thinking about is there an overlap there. But we have some great people in our office who are very skilled at extracting phones and reviewing phone messages, text messages, things of that nature, which can help us with crime. One of the big issues for me is juvenile crime, particularly handguns, guns with kids. We have started a handgun intervention program for juveniles. trying to identify kids that get picked up with guns before they use them, or at least before we know that they've used them. And we have a program where they, their parents have to participate, and they meet in the evenings and they talk about issues related to guns. We bring in a doctor to talk about injuries, and they learn about what their rights are and generally talk about conflict resolution. And at the end, they make a presentation about what they've learned in the classes. And I've gone to several of those. And so it's a small group, but I'm hopeful that we at least can reach those kids and help them make better choices and not be so feeling so much like they need to carry a gun. But it is an issue. I don't think that we are getting a really good handle right now on juveniles with guns. It's something we continue to work on with other members of the community and violence intervention folks. But I will tell you that there are a lot of people working on this issue in the city. And I think, you know, we make progress with individual people. So that's something we'll continue to focus on. We also have a data dashboard now on our website. I don't know how many of you know what a dashboard is, but it is, I didn't know for a long time, but it's a way to display data on a website, like using graphs and statistics. So we do update that quarterly, and it shows the kinds of cases we're filing. It shows dispositions of cases, sentences, things of that nature. So if you're interested, you can go to our website, which is denverda.org, and you can take a look at our dashboard and see what kinds of cases we're filing and so forth. The Denver police also have a very a good dashboard about where crimes are taking place. And I know you guys have your crime committee that in your newsletter shows where crimes are taking place and what they are. So it's good to get that information out to you. And we want to be as transparent as we can. Right now, we have an interesting thing going on. The public defender's data system, or their computer system, was hacked a week and a half ago. So right now they can't access their discovery that we send them on all their cases. So we're in a little bit of a wait and see. We don't know how long it's going to take for them to be able to figure out what happened and try to address it. They do have email and they do have phone service, but they can't access their case files. So our trials are being postponed and our preliminary hearings, but we're hoping that that won't go on for too long. Although, I don't know, I've heard other, you know, like a government agency getting hacked, it may take 3 to 6 months, but we're hoping it won't take that long. So that's going to be a challenge. After we get over COVID, now we have to deal with continuing cases because of public defender inability to access. And then just finally, back to the guns, we do have a firearms relinquishment program for domestic violence, not a program. We have an investigator for domestic violence offenders because they are not supposed to be able to possess or purchase handguns or guns. So we have an investigator full-time who reviews all our domestic violence cases for the presence of firearms. And then we take that to the judge, who will order that person to relinquish firearms during the pendency of the case. And then if they are convicted, they have to relinquish them permanently. We're the only office in the state that has that kind of investigation. And we got, I know last year we got about 70 guns and the year before about 110. So I think it's successful, and we are keeping the guns out of the hands of people who might use them against their loved one or against themselves. So there are a number of pieces of legislation going through this year. Some of them relate to guns, some of them relate to different aspects of criminal justice. And I'm happy to answer any questions about those if you'd like. But I think I'll stop talking and see if you guys have questions. And I know you have some other business as well.
Thank you for coming
Sure.
and taking time tonight. Wendy, I think you have a question for Beth.
Yes. So Beth, thank you again for your presentation. I had been getting your fraud and scam emails, and I put them in the newsletter.
Oh, great.
Sometimes I'll take excerpts, sometimes I'll put the whole thing in there, just to keep people aware. And I wanted to emphasize one thing that you know this, of course, but that other people might not. These scammers, it isn't any shame that someone might fall under their spell. These are really excellent people. I mean, they really know what they're doing. They're not excellent people. They're excellent at what they're doing. A friend of ours was targeted and fell for one of these things, and he's a NASA engineer who works for Lockheed Martin. So it isn't something that happens to you. Don't feel bad if you don't think you're dumb. You know, it happens to even the smartest of us. So I think that's something that people ought to be aware of. And I think I went on your website just now and tried to sign up for the fraud emails and didn't quite find what I was looking for. So I might have to call and figure
Yeah.
out what I'm supposed to be signing up for.
I think I have your email, Wendy, so I
Okay.
can send it
Wendy,
to you. Thank you for raising that. And actually, I don't know if you guys saw, but on the Today Show a couple days ago, they had a financial advisor person who was scammed out of $50,000. And
Oh
so
my gosh.
you are correct. It is not an embarrassment or shame because these people are very good at it, and they had like a number of layers with her. Like, you know, they told her they were, I think, from her bank, and there was a concern, and then they had her talk to somebody else, you know, another official kind of person. I think there were 2 or 3 official kind of people that spoke with her about what was going on, and they needed to protect her $50,000 because this, you know, the bank had been hacked or something had happened there, and she actually fell for it and sent them the 50,000, and it's gone. So yeah, it's
Well, thank you again for presenting all those issues. We do need to move forward with
Okay.
our agenda, but we appreciate your time.
sure. Thank you.
Our second discussion tonight is going to be around the Jackson Street project, and Matt Farris is here. Matt, I got your email. Maybe you can talk about that other fellow that's meeting with Teller tomorrow. And I'll let you have the floor. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, no, thanks for having me. This is what I think I was here in October and November speaking to you all. So, thanks for having me back. I guess I'd like to, at some point, give an update on the project. And, I think specifically, I'm sure there's, from the information you gave me, asked me to come, Victoria, was to talk a little bit about traffic in the area and whatnot. I guess first, let me talk about what Victoria just mentioned. There, in response to some complaints about both ongoing safety, traffic-related safety issues in the area, and ones directly related to the closure of 14th for the storm sewer job, more focusing on the long-term things. DOTI, upper management, if you will, assigned a person in the traffic, basically in the traffic engineering department, to kind of respond to complaints that are more long-term basis, traffic calming related ideas, type stuff. And they sent me a name, and I believe I distributed that to you, Victoria, previously, but just today I reached out to that individual and asked if they would like to come join this meeting. And they sent me a different person that said, oh, I'm the more appropriate person. They couldn't make it tonight. His name is Greg Saisik, I believe. I will, at some point here after I'm done speaking, I will put his contact information into the chat. Again, his role, I guess, is to help facilitate neighborhood long-standing or new complaints that are not directly related to the closure of 14th Avenue. And he did send me a link to a website, and I'd like to share that with you too. I've never saw it before or knew that it existed. That actually, it's more related to, I think it's more related to BRT impacts, but you can actually ping on the website and say, oh, there's specific problems at this area of town, these streets, this intersection, that gets reviewed by them and will be helpful. He pointed me to that website to share with your members to and distribute and hopefully help be able to communicate longer standing issues in the neighborhood area. Seems like a pretty neat website. I'll try to pull it up here and share my screen and just show you all, and then I'll put the link in the chat as well. Bear with me 1 second here.
That would be great, Matt. I know the survey. I think that would be great. And we will also help disseminate his contact.
Okay. Give me 1 second here. Pulling up his link. And try to figure out how to share here. We use Microsoft Teams in the city. I don't share on Zoom often. Screen.
At your bottom, on your bottom
I
screen.
think I've got it now.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Are people seeing my screen?
Yes,
Okay. So here's the website again. I'll put this link in. It's a safety study of, it specifically says 13th, 14th, 16th, 17th, and 18th, but this map down here, it has a broader area than that, and there's abilities to add these markers at specific areas of concern and to raise awareness that way to the city. It seems like a pretty neat interactive tool that I've never seen before. So anyways, that's that piece of it. I guess I'll roll into, I will give a brief update on kind of where we're at with the project, and then talk a little bit more about traffic, and then open it up for questions, comments, concerns. And it looks like my Adobe is thinking. Okay, real quickly, I know not everybody might be able to read this kind of view on a print plan set. What we're kind of looking at here is 14th Avenue in between Jackson and Colorado. There's a National Jewish Hospital is here on the north, the top of the screen, and their parking lot area off of Harrison Street with Fire Station 15 and that retention pond area are kind of what we're looking at. We mobilized into the job site, 14th Avenue, your neighborhood, December 4th. Since then, we've laid 210 feet of 110-inch pipe, along with built 2 transition structures, which are concrete structures. We made good progress. We advertised a 4-month closure of 14th Avenue, which is the beginning of April. As of this week, we have laid pipe out of 14th Avenue. So all of our mainline infrastructure we had to lay in 14th Avenue, we are now down in the retention pond area with the main pipe. On the south side of 14th Avenue, we have rebuilt, there's a sanitary sewer system that ran in the tree lawn that feeds National Jewish Hospital. And we've rebuilt that section and tied it back into the sanitary sewer main line in 14th Avenue. And we have completed, there is a new inlet for storm sewer that is on the south side of 14th, just to the west of Harrison. And that inlet is almost complete. The pipe work to it is done, and we have replaced the water main in 14th Avenue that you kind of see in blue, a blue line here on your screen. So long story short, I guess, all of the infrastructure work under 14th Avenue has been completed. Starting the early part of next week, they'll start removing the old roadway in its entirety. All of the curb and gutter that's left that wasn't removed as part of the storm sewer installation. And the first week in March, they will start placing concrete flatwork back. That's curb and gutter and sidewalks and ramps, pedestrian ramps, and get that completed in the first couple weeks. And then it's paving prep and paving the street and then reopening it. We're still tracking easily along as long as weather continues to cooperate with the early April reopening of 14th. If we can get it done earlier, the contractor's making great progress. So obviously we'll strive to do that. So that's kind of where we're at with the job. There is looking a little broader than just the closure of 14th Avenue. We are beginning to dig a tunnel. We have completed some prep work for tunneling under Colorado Boulevard, basically ensuring the roadway isn't going to cave in on the tunneling effort. That has been completed. So the contractor is now starting to dig their what's called a boring pit. It's where they advance the tunneling equipment under the roadway. They're digging that on the east side of Colorado Boulevard. And they will, at the March 4th, they'll have their equipment start coming in, the tunneling equipment, and start tunneling that week after March 4th. And they'll tunnel under Colorado Boulevard, 2 separate side-by-side 83-inch diameter pipes. And then from there, they'll start working down the east side of Colorado Boulevard with, it's called open trench excavation. It's the same method that was used in 14th Avenue. That, roughly speaking, that pipe work on the east side of Colorado Boulevard will start in the July time period. And then ultimately, at the end of the day, there'll be a 2-month closure in September, October of 13th Avenue to get the new pipe work out of National Jewish property and into 13th Avenue. From there, it'd be doing some additional improvements to the pedestrian sidewalk on the east side of Colorado Boulevard. There will end up with an 8-foot tree lawn that will have planters and whatnot tight to Colorado Boulevard, separating a new 8-foot wide sidewalk. So it's separate from the traffic on Colorado Boulevard. That's a general overview of kind of where we're at with the project. We could open it up to questions, or I guess I'm just going to jump in to traffic items that we have added since the start of the project in response to complaints that we have received from the neighborhood, the community. Again, we moved in on December 4th. Unfortunate timing that there was a water main break in southbound Colorado Boulevard on December 5th, I believe it was, or overnight, December 4th into 5th. Traffic was a disaster in the neighborhood just south of 13th Avenue, as southbound Colorado was completely shut down, and Harrison, Jackson, Garfield got flooded. We also got flooded with quite a few complaints, obviously thinking that it was direct relation to the closure of 14th. But in observing and watching and hearing those complaints, we did notice some things that could be done better for attempting to prevent flow through traffic that came all the way down 14th Avenue to the full closure at Jackson and heading south. So we put in response to those complaints, we put in some additional, these are called type 3 barricades on the south side of 13th Avenue at Jackson Street. And then another one at Garfield Street, again, an attempt to further advertise to traffic that, hey, don't come into the neighborhood if you don't have business in here. And then those signs, they get moved around a fair amount by the public. Our contractor tries to stay up on making sure that they're where they're supposed to be. But self-admitted, it's a thing that we're working with them on to ensure that signage stays in place. There has been requests to initiate more of a full hard closure at these areas, basically wall it off. That is not something that the city's traffic engineering office, for quite a few reasons, including snow removal, trash service on the streets, emergency service access, and neighborhood access as well, legitimate neighborhood access. So that's, we've been directed not to make them more permanent, make them full closures for those reasons. And then some of the other items more recently that we have done is we had pointed out to us that, hey, you guys have a detour sign at the full closure, directing people down Jackson Street. So again, we took a look at that and said, yeah, that doesn't totally make sense. That detour it's meant for southbound Garfield traffic that was getting detoured at Garfield, as well as National Jewish Health's parking lot, their customer or their patients coming out of the parking lot, just so they had an idea of where to go. And the intention was for them to come down to 13th Avenue, turn west, and then go north on Garfield. So we went ahead and added additional detour signage at this location and here on Garfield to try and help make it a little clearer where people should be going. And the last thing, most recently, we received a complaint about cut through traffic in the alley in between Jackson and Garfield, probably in a response to the additional signage restricting people's access there that are just truly trying to cut through your neighborhood. And so we placed at that request an additional signage here at the alley. I'll go ahead and open it up to questions and comments now.
That'd be great, Matt. Miles, your hand was up first. So Miles and then Eleni.
Yeah, Matt, thanks for presenting. Can we go back to the earlier drawing of the pipeline alignment?
Yes.
Can you tell me, I was just looking at this alignment again. And you guys said for 14th Avenue, you're taking all of the trees down in the tree lawn to the north, correct?
We have taken all of them down up to, let me change to a hand, maybe you can see it better. Up to a certain point, there's 3 trees left, up on the north side.
Okay, so that was,
As you approach Colorado Boulevard, the 3 trees that are still there are staying there.
okay,
There are still some trees. We believe that we can save all the trees that are left on the south side. There is a potential chance with the tunneling equipment, when a crane has to come in to remove the tunneling equipment from the ground, that those trees could possibly be in the way and be danger of needing to be removed.
so you don't, okay, okay. No, that was my question, because I think you'd said before you were taking down all the trees, and it's like the pipe isn't up there, so no, that's fine.
Yeah, if I did say that on the north side, I misspoke. All along, we figured that we could be able to save the last 3 trees on the far east side as you approach Colorado Boulevard, but the trees on the south, I probably did in November say they're all gone, because there's a chance they were going to be gone, and I didn't want to give false hope. But I believe the contractors figured out a way to keep the vast majority of them while accomplishing the work. And all of the trees that have been removed on the east side of Colorado Boulevard currently are all of the trees that are going to be removed.
Thank you. Eleni, you have the floor.
Thanks. And thanks, Matt, for coming to the meeting. Yeah, it was, as a person who lives in the area that was most impacted by this project, in terms of the traffic diversion that was occurring, it was nothing short of horrific. When 2 large semi trucks broke down and had to be towed out of Jackson Street in a school zone, and we were getting, multiple deliveries a day to National Jewish was using that as a cut through. So I appreciate the city finally kind of getting that at least under control. I don't know why all of National Jewish's deliveries had to come through a school zone and a neighborhood bikeway. And these were the deliveries. They get multiples a day. Their laundry service, their food service. I mean, those trucks come in and out multiple times. So I think from a planning perspective, and what we've noticed and as I've said to you, it lacked the kind of pre-planning that needed to happen. To think about that drivers are distracted, they don't pay attention, and that we have serious issues already in the neighborhood. So it's not to dump all this on your doorstep, because we already have serious issues. And there's more and more density and more cars in Denver, and there's just not a way to address it. And by the time we get caught up, we're years behind. So we definitely need some kind of serious, we were promised in the East Central area plan, we would get traffic calming measures, and that hasn't happened. So this is just a result. I mean, the videos I have of what happened on our street, I would never want any street in Congress Park, any street in the city and county of Denver, unless it can handle semi-huge trucks that you would see on I-25 or I-70. They're actually illegal to go down our streets, but it was just happening multiple times a day. So we're lucky that it doesn't look like, from what I can understand, anybody's been injured, but it was seriously, we had people freaked out for weeks, and it's still a day by day situation. So I'm hoping that this will help create a better template going forward before there are street closures, i.e. BRT, that really serious thought is given to really how drivers behave, because I don't think the city contemplated the driver behavior that we see every day and knew how to respond to it. Because our lived experience, when I had spoke to folks, they seem to not recognize what we see every day. It seemed like there was this disconnect. So, kind of lessons learned for the city is, listen to constituents. Sometimes our lived experience will tell you when we see the same person or same types of behaviors happening hundreds and hundreds of times a day, then that's the response, that the way that the street closures worked. And it's unfortunate that children walking to school have to dodge a semi-wide load trailer truck barreling down the street. It's just not, it's not humorous. It's horrific. So I am hoping that you will take this back to your folks at DOTI. And we would hope to have greater transparency. We want to know who the decision makers are, because other neighborhoods get traffic calming measures and we kind of sit here and go, where is the relief? How do we get what they got? How did they get that done? And the lack of transparency and accountability, that's how then we interpret it. We feel like we didn't get something when maybe that was in a bond, or maybe there's a reason that happened. But when someone doesn't come to us with transparency and openness, then we're going to just assume that it's not inclusive and it's not equitable. So
Lainey, thank you for your feedback. Hopefully some of these traffic calming measures will be helpful, although I'm sure going forward it's going to take constant monitoring. And she's right, we do have BRT coming around the corner. Does anyone else have a question for Matt? Matt, thank you for coming and taking time this evening and addressing all those issues. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, not a problem. And Alani, I will definitely, I have and will continue to speak with the city traffic engineering office that we, as the capital projects department, work with, and all departments that have city projects in the street, in the roadway, on our collective approach to street closures and the impacts on the community. And I will put into the chat, hopefully everybody has a way to contact us, but I will put in, not just as I spoke about first, Greg Cesick's contact info on longer standing things, the website link as well, but I'll put our project's email address and our project website. If you're not getting the updates, weekly updates we send out, you can go and sign in and sign up for those.
Thank you, Matt. We also, we publish them in email blasts and they're on our website as well. So our final speaker tonight is Hanna Ruiz with District 2 Police. We are in District 2. Hanna came in response to a question we asked her about problems with traffic, in particular on 8th Avenue with speeding. Hanna, thank you for joining us. I know right now 8th Avenue has a construction project that's closing it down to one lane, but at other times that's not the case. So Hanna, you have the floor.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Yes, that was the question you sent me, Vicky. And I have addressed it with our lieutenant in our district. And however, most of our traffic, we refer it over to the traffic unit. So the traffic units are the one that will go out and conduct enforcement. They'll do other various projects in that area. We also have our signs that will probably, I have talked to Lieutenant Malo, and unfortunately Lieutenant Malo, who is my sector lieutenant, he's on vacation, but on his return, we do have speed signs, so we can actually have them moved in that area. And hopefully that can help with some of the speeding. I know that's, not always, but we can also track it as well. So, we can find out if, how often and what are the speeds, and we can look into all of that. So I know that's not, doesn't seem like a whole lot, but that's what we can do on part of our enforcement.
I think we have a question from a neighbor. Betsy, would you like to address Officer Ruiz? Betsy, Roomley, you have the floor.
Okay, sorry, I was muted. Officer Ruiz, thank you for looking into this. I live pretty close to 8th Avenue, and I've been here for 24 years, and I haven't seen one attempt to enforce the speed limit on 8th, in strong contrast to the speeding enforcement on 6th. I actually did a information request, and it took me about 4 months, and there have been 0 tickets issued on 8th Avenue, in contrast to many tickets issued on 6th Avenue. There is, regardless of the work on 8th Avenue that's going on, there's constant speeding on 8th Avenue. Now you have a 2-lane turn off Colorado onto 8th Avenue. There is hot rodding in the summer. People all the way up at 9th Avenue in Detroit hear the people hot rodding off that traffic control light at the alley on the corner of Congress Park and that alley. And it's just, you just wonder about the police department's protection of the people who live in the country club versus people who live in Congress Park, that they get enforcement and we don't.
Thank you for that information. Again, like I said, it was brought to my attention. I will definitely address this with our lieutenant and with the traffic unit. Honestly, in our part, we will try and do as much enforcement on the patrol side. However, we're very limited on our resources. So those are, meant more for the priority calls and 911s and non-emergency calls. So I rely heavily on our traffic unit, which they would be the ones that would be able to do more enforcement and also respond to a lot of your questions and your concerns. I have a suggestion. Meghan Patrick is our program coordinator. She is on this meeting, and we'll talk about it. I will suggest that maybe we get our traffic unit out to our community meeting that we have, our 2CAB meeting. And because I can't really answer a lot of those questions, I'm not in part of that traffic enforcement part. But if they can come and attend one of our 2CAB meetings, we can invite the community, Congress Park, and of course the entire District 2 community over to maybe answer some of your questions about traffic enforcement. Until that time, of course, I still will send this request over to them, and we can get that hopefully on their line of enforcement they are already doing.
I appreciate that, but the speeder vans are out on 6th constantly, or they're there often, and they're none on 8th. So I just don't understand why that is so uneven. I don't think it requires a big study. It's just this: you put speeder vans on 6th, and you don't choose to do so on 8th.
You are correct. That is a different entity from us. So I'd have to, again, I would forward that to that unit as far as speed vans out on those locations.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, it took me a lot of effort, and now it's old. I got it a couple of years ago, and it only went back 3 years, but zero enforcement. And, it's feeling like I'm getting the runaround again. I mean, it just seems like you should say, yes, they're two equal. They're paired one-way streets. We only enforce the speed limit on one of them. And that's because we really want 8th to be a high volume, high speed avenue, because we need it to get into Denver. I mean, I think that's the subtext, and the country club has a greater lobbying foot, so they can control the speed on their part of that, the paired one way. If it hadn't been so hard for me to get the information initially, I had to push and push and push. And then I got it, and I sent it out to people, didn't hear anything back. And this is sounding like a runaround. I'm sorry. I wish I didn't feel that way, but it's been a runaround.
If I may, I'll jump in as well. This is, as Technician Ruiz said, this is Meghan Patrick. I'm the Community Engagement Program Manager with DPD. So I think that's a great idea to actually have our traffic unit come out and discuss how they prioritize some of the streets in Denver. As expansive as DPD is, as Technician Ruiz said, we are somewhat limited in the traffic resources. Now, Betsy, I hear you because I see it and experience it myself. Sometimes I wish I could pull over these vehicles directly and just say, hey, that's not acceptable. That's too much. But I think there's an opportunity for us to continue that conversation with the traffic unit. And then also with what Technician Ruiz said is escalating this up to Lieutenant Mallow. This isn't something that Technician Ruiz or Lieutenant Mallow take lightly. So we have been doing things with alerting speeders. And Technician Ruiz, please jump in with this, the exact terminology for the speeding signage that we put out, the post that we put out. So we are trying to combat that, but I totally agree with you, Betsy, is sometimes we just don't see it. It doesn't mean it's not happening, but it's probably not on the level that obviously that you're comfortable with. So I would suggest, if this is of interest, I think that's a great idea to have our traffic unit come out to 2CAB and actually explain how they're prioritizing streets in Denver and really answer some of those questions directly. When we're at our 2CAB meetings too, you have Commander Aragon in the room who's hearing your concerns directly.
What is 2CAB?
Oh, you just made my day asking that, Betsy. So our 2CAB meeting is our monthly District 2 meeting. You have Commander Aragon. He is the top that you can go in District 2. He is the commander over the entire district. And then you have Lieutenant Mallow, who is over Sector 1, which is where Congress Park falls. And they'll discuss crime trends. We always have a guest speaker. And so when we're looking for guest speakers, this is why Technician Ruiz mentioned that we might want to have traffic unit come out. So we'll coordinate that on our side, but also you have leadership in our district directly in front of you to voice these concerns too.
I'm sorry, I've attended one of those meetings and I raised this issue to the people there, and guess that didn't go anywhere either.
Well, I'll say too, because I'm in a similar situation. Sometimes I see things in Denver and I see it on both sides. I know part of what's going on behind the scenes at DPD of what they're trying to do to combat it, and also just what's happening in the community with the speeding that's happening, with some of the reckless driving that's occurring. And DA McCann is on this call. I had the privilege of supporting the memorial sign program at the Denver DA's office, and that was heartbreaking to see some of these accidents that could have been prevented. So it's not falling on deaf ears, but I think to bring the experts to the table would be a really good way to continue that conversation. And in the past, if you have voiced these concerns, I don't know if you voiced them with Commander Aragon, but he takes accountability of District 2 very seriously.
I'd like to mention, I've gone to a few of these meetings recently in person, and I found the department response very good. I was attending in person over some very specific issues in Congress Park, And I felt like the department stepped up. These meetings can also, you can attend by Zoom. And I've done that as well and found that it was very easy to ask questions. But I think the best part about it is what you're pointing out, Meghan, which is you can directly talk to someone and you can get a direct answer about why something is being applied one way and not another. And I think that is a positive step forward for making progress on this issue. It has been around for a long time, and I don't think it's going to disappear, and it needs to be addressed. So thank you for attending, and everyone, pay attention. Meghan, it's on a Wednesday night, right?
It is. Our meetings are the first Wednesday now of each month. Our next one is March 6th, and our doors open an hour early. So you can actually get FaceTime for an hour in advance of the meeting at 5 p.m. And then we will start promptly at 6 p.m. For this next meeting, we are focusing on domestic violence. We have Safe House Denver presenting, but I have made note of this, as Technician Ruiz mentioned, is we will reach out to our traffic unit and prioritize their involvement at a future TCAB meeting. But Betsy, I will tell you, I hear you. And I know that that's not exactly the answer that you always want is, hey, attend this meeting if you felt like you have gotten the runaround. But I will say, and thank you, Vicki, for mentioning this, when you have our command leadership in the room at District 2 and you're voicing these concerns, they take it very seriously. And so I would invite anyone on this call, please join us at these TCAB meetings. If there are other entities that we need to invite to future meetings, these meetings are for you. We call them our community advisory board meetings, and they are based off of what the community actually needs. And so I have made note of that tonight. As Technician Ruiz said, she will talk to Lieutenant Mallow, and he does not take these concerns lightly. The other piece that I'll mention too is it's hard to know what actions are being done. I have met with through a community academy, I've met with the traffic unit, and to hear how they're pulled in different directions and where they prioritize certain streets and how they are out there doing the work and writing those tickets. It's just, we sometimes don't always see them until, unfortunately, maybe the lights are on in the back of our car and we're being pulled over. But I don't want to send you on a runaround, Betsy. So we're going to do two things. We're going to escalate this up to Lieutenant Mallow. And then we're also going to put this in front of Commander Aragon to have our traffic unit come out at a future meeting soon.
I really appreciate that. I have attended the meeting in person and then raised it afterwards. And I love meetings in general are great. You guys do a wonderful job of making things welcoming, but I think the speeding on 8th, I think the city wants 8th to be a high-speed arterial without really, I mean, that's what's going on. So it's just, yeah. And when 6th, why would 6th, you can tell me there are different reasons, but why would there be any different reasons for controlling the speed on 6th rather than on 8th? That just doesn't make sense to me. But nonetheless, a meeting in the future may make this all clear to me, and I will look for that. And I do appreciate the CAB 2 meetings in general, just not on this issue.
Absolutely. And, you speak to my data heart of wondering why is there a difference between 8th and 6th, or is there a difference and we might not see it and traffic might have more information? So I'm with you. Let's seek to get these questions answered. So
we have a couple more hands raised. Wendy first. Q, I'll get you right after Wendy. Wendy, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thanks, Vicki. And thanks, Meghan. And thanks, Hanna, for presenting tonight. I just wanted to ask if, do we need to register for the TCAB meetings? Is there a particular place we need to sign up to get that information about the Zoom links? I'd like to put that in the neighborhood newsletter. And secondly, not that I want to start a whole new conversation, But are the speeding vans, are they contractors and not police department staff? And so maybe there's a different reason for where they are placed?
The speed vans are a different entity. They actually are city employees. They are not police officers that actually run the vans. So, but it is a different entity with the same, they have the equipment, and they go through the traffic unit for that.
Okay, thank you.
Hugh?
Thank you. I am a long-term Congress Park resident. I live at the corner of 8th and Madison. And a couple of suggestions, maybe parking one of those trailers that have the speed, when they, this is your speed, here's the speed limit, and they're welcome to park it in front of my house on 8th. There's parking out in front. Also, we used to have officers that would hang out on and have their breaks on Madison Street. And maybe if there were police officers that would take their breaks on 8th Avenue, again, parking in front of my house, and I'm more than happy to see more officers taking their breaks, just parking the car and just, doing paperwork while being on the side of the street. I live basically on the, there's a Garfield light, and I'm on the increase zone. So I see all kinds of things going on 8th Avenue from my kitchen window, including texters. About 1 in every 8 or 9 cars are people who are texting and driving. And that's just, I'm appalled. But I'm more than happy as a long-term resident to support whatever police activity can happen that would keep the speed down, especially since there's now 2 lanes coming off Colorado Boulevard and a steady stream of traffic. I know that a couple of years ago, there was a study done and it was 16,000 cars a day, but that was prior to the adjustment to the traffic flow coming off of Colorado Boulevard. So, and I've noticed a massive increase. And, since that Colorado Boulevard adjustment has been made. So just a couple of suggestions, and I can give you my phone number and you can contact me or whatever. But I am somebody that actually lives on 8th Avenue and has for almost 30 years. Thank you.
Thank
Hugh,
you.
it sounds like, Hugh, we might reach out to you to host us for Coffee with the Cops in a future event. We can post up. I think those are great suggestions. We've heard some of these similar suggestions, and just to provide some other perspective too, sometimes the public doesn't always know when we're on break or when it's an out of service vehicle. And so in fact, with the concern about response times with DPD right now, it actually has a counter effect where folks might say, well, this was happening and DPD was sitting right there and they didn't do anything. And so we struggle with that balance. I really appreciate your hospitality and willingness to really bring us into the neighborhood. We are doing a Coffee with the Cops at 8th and Colorado coming up. Technician Ruiz, I think we have the details on that. March 6th, I want to say, is our next one. So with your willingness to host us, we'd love to see you there at that Starbucks and continue the conversation. And then to the question earlier, for anyone who's interested in attending 2CAB or some of our other events and staying informed with what we might be seeing in regards to safety concerns or ways to protect your property, your vehicles, crime trends, I send out an email. Vicki, you can attest to this. I try not to spam everyone and keep it as a need-to-know basis. But if you reach out to Vicki and say, hey, can you please pass my email on to Meghan? I will make sure you're added to our District 2 list. And then we also post on Nextdoor. So we are trying to send that information out in the most respectful manner. And we'll be posting about the upcoming Coffee with the Cops event. So Hugh, I really hope to see you there. But if there's any way that we can further support, please reach out to Vicki. She has all of my information.
Thank
give
you.
us the coffee with the cops again. It's what date?
Coffee with the Cops. It will be at the Starbucks off of 8th and Colorado. And
Yep.
I am, as technology would have it, my computer is going very slow, but I believe it is March 6th.
Okay.
I'm
And
just
what time again?
We start those at 10 a.m. And I apologize, I was off by a day. So this will be on Tuesday, March 5th at 10 a.m. We'll be at that Starbucks at 8th in Colorado.
I'll be there. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. We look forward to meeting you. And Betsy, I hope to see you there. Anyone who would like to continue this conversation in advance of 2CAB meetings, please join us. It's a very relaxed way of talking with us. And our commander always shows up. He will be there.
Meghan, thank you. Hanna, thank you for attending tonight. And thank you everyone else. I think we had a good crowd of neighbors. I have one more announcement. Our next meeting is April 17th. And please look at our website and read our email blasts in between, because we try to keep everyone up to date. And again, February 28th, a week from tonight, 5 to 7, Carla Madison Rec Center, BRT, will be there discussing their traffic, their parking and accessibility plan for Colfax. And they're removing quite a bit of parking. So I think it's a really important issue for all of us to take a look at. Again, thank you everyone for attending. This meeting is recorded. Jamie, go ahead.
Hi, Vicki. This is Jamie Lewis. I just wanted to introduce myself real quickly. On Tuesday, I'm going to be sworn in as a District A director for RTD. I'm replacing Kate Williams, who unfortunately has a medical issue. Again, I just wanted to introduce myself and ask you for your support, and hopefully we can get things done. I just wanted to mention with Beth McCann, all the great work they're doing. And I also learned that RTD is training our bus drivers to identify trafficking. So in conjunction with what Beth is doing, we think that safety is paramount. So I just wanted to say hi, and hopefully I'll be seeing you guys again.
Amy, thank you for coming. I think we could certainly have you back to discuss many of the safety issues on RTD, because those frequently come up. So make sure you leave your email in the chat, and I'll be in touch. So thank you for attending. Thank you again, everyone. Good night. Have a good evening, and look forward to seeing you in the future.
Thanks, Vicki.